go? There it is. Hey everybody, how you doing today? My name is Relyea and thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are jumping into an interview with Dave, who is the solo developer of Little Nemo. He is launching a Kickstarter. It's Little Nemo and the Guardians of Slumberland. I'm really excited about this one. This is a new Metroidvania game that you just get to play through. It's a Metroidvania. Let's just put it that way. I got to play the demo of it, and I'm just so excited to share it. It looks absolutely beautiful. It pulls inspiration from all kinds of different games, and I'm super excited. Like just playing the demo from the little bit that I did, I really enjoyed myself. So Dave, how are you doing?
Good. Hey, thanks for bringing me in here.
Yo, I'm so excited to have you here. Let me, actually, I thought your audio was a little bit loud there. Chat, let me know if audio is a little bit... No, it's not your fault. That's mine. There we go. So, today, you just launched your Kickstarter. It looks like you just hit the $13,000 goal. And, yeah, I'll let you tell us a little bit about Guardians of Slumberland, and then I will throw on... let's see. I'm gonna mute this music, and I will throw on the gameplay demo in the background while you're talking.
Yeah. So this is, like you said, it's a Metroidvania, and I think kind of the things that I see as setting it apart. I'm trying to make something kind of cute and colorful. It's a little like kind of aesthetic change of pace from what you maybe tend to get in Metroidvanias, and also it's a little more platforming centric. So like my influences tend to be more like NES and Super Nintendo platforming games. So you'll see here like turnips getting plucked and tossed, an inspiration from like Mario 2. Yeah, so there's a lot of little elements, the dangling from Darkwing Duck.
That's what that was. Okay.
Yeah, like especially one of the biggest influences here is actually Capcom's Disney Afternoon games, and of course Capcom's Little Nemo game is a big influence, but yeah, just trying to take all of these like platforming flavors, and instead of giving Nemo just like new weapons, they're more they kind of tend to be useful. The toy upgrades that you'll get will be useful for combat, but also for platforming.
Got it.
Good example of that being like the pogo stick, which, similar to the DuckTales pogo stick, you bounce off enemies, but also you can use it to traverse over spikes. So it's a little bit of, it's like a little bit of combat, a little bit of platforming. And yeah, the focus here is just kind of like checking out this fun, exciting dream world. That's the goal, is make exploration really fun and have it like just feel like take that platformer gameplay and bring it into a big open world.
Got it. Man, it was super fun, and I really enjoyed playing through this. I'm actually I'll release the video of me talking over it my like normal fashion probably after this live stream. But I love all the different places that you pull inspiration from. So when you see the background with the mountains, I see like Yoshi's Island. I see the checkers on the screen here with like the dirt, like it's very much Sonic, right?
Yeah,
there's all these
for
different
sure.
little pieces.
Yeah, Yoshi's Island is a huge visual inspiration. Like you can I think it's like fairly obviously said, like when I was drawing those mountains, I was like just looking at Yoshi's Island for sure.
Yeah. And then also, as we just start the live stream, I want to welcome everybody in the chat. What is up, Rapunzel, Chucky, Bruce, hello, Addict, Jasmine the Noob, good to see you. Natalia, welcome back. It is so adorable, right? It's like an absolutely beautiful game. I love the way it plays. The controls are already super tight. It's super responsive. I like that a lot already right off the bat, like huge.
That's something I think a lot about, is the responsiveness of the controls, because it's a Metroidvania, but also, like I said, like the focus is on platforming, and so I want the controls to be very responsive. So I do a lot about like my dev time will be if I'm working on a new ability or something. It's like, oh, let me make sure that this is like coming out as soon as possible after that input is registered. I want it to be happening ASAP on screen.
Raj. Yeah, it's so good. I'm trying to think of when it comes to responsiveness. Yeah, no, I think it comes through very, very nicely that it is tight. And like there's definitely other, especially with indie games, sometimes things can be either a little bit loose or there's a little bit of a slide or something like that. But right off the bat, I like the way this one feels.
Yeah.
And
I went with the Symphony of the Night style, like just real full control over your aerial momentum and complete total friction on the floor.
That's what I want to say. Right there, when you take damage in the game, I love how visceral it is. It is. There's some games where you get hit and it might like make your character blink or something like that, but the way that it like makes a screen crack and you hear it and it's like it's like whoa, it's almost jarring, but in a good way. I like that.
I mean, I think you certainly, I'm sure, like see the influence there from Hollow Knight.
Yeah, in a good way though.
Yeah, I definitely, because Hollow Knight, I feel like that game was like that damage effect in Hollow Knight was kind of a revelation for me. I was like, wow, this is like really intense, but like that's kind of perfect. Like, and I you know, obviously this was very different, and I think going. I actually did toy with something that looked a bit more like Hollow Knight at one point, but it's just like, you know, this game I wanted to maintain, even though there's like some spooky parts and some creepy parts planned. There's like it's supposed to be cute, and so like an effect that's like too visceral was like too much for this vibe. So yeah, getting that cracking glass was kind of, you know, the right balance for me.
Yeah. And then, so Jaguar was asking if I'm playing the game right now. So I'm not actually playing the game right now, but this is the demo that I personally played. I recorded this footage earlier, and right now it's just running on a loop, so we have something to look at while we're talking about it. Let's see, looks super cute. What a death animation, though, right? Which leads us into our next question. So, is there a reason why we're exploring our dreams in fighting bosses, or is there like a specific like bad guy in this? Like, what's kind of?
So, I don't want to spoil too much, and I think like generally, the stuff that I'm gonna share about this is, you know, the idea. There's this Oblivion, which you can see. That's the sort of dark, starry stuff, and that's like taking over Slumberland, and you need to kind of like push that back by saving Guardians, and this Oblivion is introducing these enemies and these bosses, and so the idea is typically a lot of the flow will be, you know, you go into an area and you fight this monster, like a boss, and you're able to then save the Guardian and then push back the Oblivion, and that will also maybe sort of open up some pathways you couldn't get to, in addition to, you know, other toys, as I mentioned before, possibly opening new pathways. So yeah, the dream is sort of like under threat here by the Oblivion. There's more to it, but a lot of it is like gonna be the sort of stuff that will be slowly revealed to the players you play, so I don't want to get too much into it. So that's kind of the hook, is to pull you in as the Oblivion and its threat.
Raj, okay. And then let's see, we got a question from VCT Webster, is asking no physical copy for a Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I see this. Riam Punzel is asking, am I working on this by myself or as a team? And I think those kind of tie into each other. It's mostly me. I have help. So like Pete Brookman from Monomonoguchi is doing the soundtrack. Jonathan Bacon, who you might know from Cool 3D World, is doing sound. And some other people kind of helping out. But basically, I'm doing all of the like dev and a lot of the marketing, the art. It's mostly me, and so making a Kickstarter as such a tiny team is really difficult, even just like to make a digital game. And so introducing physical things, something I would like to do. Like, I am a big fan of physical releases, just not right now, but hopefully that'll be something to line up before launch even.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome to see, because I know a lot of people are still collectors and would like to see it for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I do that. I get physical copies myself, so.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, we kind of already talked about this. There's a ton of games that inspired your work. So Yoshi's Island,
Yeah.
Sonic, Super Mario.
Oh yeah, there's I wrote a list down of stuff because it's like it's on the Kickstarter page there, but you know one of the other ones I think people probably notice when they see the yo-yo, which, you know, I often just call the whip when I'm working on it. It's like Castlevania
there you go.
is a big inspiration, and specifically like Castlevania 2, I think, which, you know, was kind of a, you know, not a Metroidvania, but very kind of like proto. You know, it's a big open world. You kind of explore at your own pace. So that's one I was thinking a lot about. But yeah, that and the other one, you know, another big influence on this kind of visually. We talked a little bit about the visual inspirations. Is Lizard Cube's remake of Wonder Boy, A Dragon's Trap. They did. I'm trying to effectively like do what they did is they took this game and they rebuilt it so it works the same, but it's like they have these hand-drawn sprites over top of it and it looks amazing. And so what I'm trying to do with this is I want this game to feel like this Nintendo game you never played before, and this is like the remake of your favorite old Nintendo game, even though it's an entirely new game.
Interesting. Let's see. We're getting questions. Rapunzel asks, what does the candy do? And is there a store in the game?
Yes. So this demo build, again, this is very early, so that's why it's not like a public demo. You can't actually, you'll see nothing ever happens with the candy in this demo, but that's basically your currency. There's the two main collectibles are the candy and the moons, and the moons can be broken up to release candy, or you can pick them up as themselves. And the moon kind of ties into this, it's a meter that it allows you to sort of like level up the game and actually make it more challenging. So the moons are actually tie into a risk-reward system where you can break them open and get some candy, or you can make the game a little harder and try to get like even more candy and possibly have other things happen.
Oh, interesting.
But also the other edge is like you can also use the moons to heal, because if you know, a lot of this is kind of trying to balance the like casual play and the like player who's like speed running or just like playing like really trying to dominate the game. The moon will heal you. The moon meter will heal you if you fill it up, which this demo does do.
But you have to get like 8 moons or something crazy. It's like a lot of moons.
Yeah, definitely fiddling with all the numbers and
that's what I figured,
all that. Yeah, but yeah, you get it and you heal, but if you're already at full, it will instead level you up and the game will become fun. So that's the thinking there. It's like if you need the healing help, it'll just do that. But if you're like not getting hit anyways, the game is going to get harder for you, and you'll get rewarded with like more candy and stuff.
That makes sense. Let's see. And then also, so speaking of the yo-yo being used as a whip, I mean, it's essentially a Hollow Knight ripoff, because I mean the yo-yo might as well just be a sword, you know? It's
for sure.
Yeah, if it's got upgrades and backtracking, it's you just made Hollow Knight. That's what you did. No, I'm just kidding. It's one of those things, like I don't know how any developer at this point can get away from Hollow Knight if you're making a Metroidvania at all, period. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things, like it popped into my mind.
Do you even want to get away from Hollow Knight?
Yeah, exactly, right?
It's such a great inspiration. I mean, like, I think the thing I really want to do is, like, I love, like, how Hollow Knight was a big visual inspiration, too, of course, right? Like, in a lot of ways, like, the effects, but also just, like, it being this, like, cute hand-drawn thing. But it's also, like, I think the thing it doesn't do for me, and a lot of games fail to do, is, like, I want more, like, I want games that remind me of, like, playing Mario 3 and, like, Sonic the Hedgehog, like, blue skies and cute grassy backgrounds and just, like, chill vibes. And, you know, Hollow Knight's very dark, right? It's, like, very moody. And there's a lot of that, and it's like, I want cute games, you know, too. I mean, I like the moody games, but I want cute games, too.
Yeah, it's been a while since, like, it was, Aladdin and, oh man, what was that?
Yeah.
Jungle Book and Lion King, like games that were more like this, like even Mario. I mean, Mario's still around, but yeah, there was a lot more games that were more like this. So
yeah.
That's
not a lot of Metroidvanias in that. I think there are some out there and a lot of like cuteness in the Metroidvania genre, but yeah, I just want to bring more of that into that and rip off Hollow Knight, you know, as much as I can get away with, by the way.
Yeah. Diligence Humanity was asking about the character going a little bit slow and jumping a little low. I did, I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of feel that a little bit in the demo. Like, it did feel like you almost jump a little bit lower than what you would expect. Is that, I don't know, how did you feel or think? Like, is this like pretty dialed in as far as that goes, or is that
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, so like one of the things that I early on kind of dialed in was yeah, like the jumping and the movement speed and the size of the screen. And I think like I like it. I know there's like, I'm pretty happy with it, but I don't know, kind of remains to be seen like how people react to this. We'll see. There's like room for it to like get adjusted. It's like fair, doable, but it is a little different, right? You jump a little lower. It's like you go exactly 3 tiles high.
Yeah.
And given the size of the screen, I find that works out pretty nicely. And there are other things, like later you'll get toys that will like change that, right? And you'll start to get like a wall jump, and then a cape that lets you like air dodge, and the pogo stick lets you jump higher, as you can see. So
it does make sense that based on the screen size, like at first it was a little bit jarring, that is just like, wow, I do feel like I'm not jumping very high, but I also very quickly acclimated to it, and it felt like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. And then yeah.
I think a lot of that too is like, as I think like when you get into this and realize, like, I think a lot of people equate Metroidvania with like combat centric gameplay. And this, there is combat in this, but it's not the center of the the gameplay here. It's like more about kind of like jumping around and platforming, and some of that stuff too. I think like a lot of that, I think maybe where things do feel uncomfortable in this demo right now is like this, like when you go up here and then go to the left, there's this room where it's like a little claustrophobic because it's just like a poorly designed room at the moment. That's, I'll figure that out. But I think like for a game that's more about kind of jumping around and exploring, I think it'll maybe make more sense than it kind of does at first.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, the movement speed is a little slow. I think that's something I did. I do want to make this very friendly for people who don't play a ton of like who aren't out here like beating Hollow Knight, and there are pajamas to make you run faster. So like, obviously not everyone wants to move that slow. So I think there will be a level of customizability to all this as well.
Got it. And the pajamas is something we'll talk about more in a little bit. But while we're talking about the level of difficulty, that's something I really want to know about, is that the NES-era platformers were not friendly. Yeah. They were not easy. They were not customizable. So how difficult would you want this game to be? Like, are there other games that you would consider benchmarks?
Yeah, I think so. Like the NES platformers, like, there's obviously a wide range of stuff of difficulty there, but I think the thing that they share in common versus like newer stuff is they just didn't acclimate to the player, rather the player acclimated to the game. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, like, you're gonna have people of different skill feelings, right? Like, even if they get better at the game, they're only gonna get so good. And so I really like games that make themselves more challenging as the player decides to challenge themselves. Interesting. And that's where I was talking about the moon system. That's where that ties in here. Like, I think most casual players will even, like, most people are just going to use the moons to heal, and the players who are really good at this stuff are going to want to use the moon system to level up and get these like the enemies will then get harder, and the game will get more difficult, and it'll get more challenging. There'll be, probably some cool secrets that you can only unlock at like the level 3 of the moon meter. For sure. But yeah, that's kind of my philosophy on difficulties. Like, I want people to be able to like grow to be able to beat it. So like, you do need to like, get good at the game, but I want somebody with like a low skill ceiling to be able to go through the game. And then I want people like me, like I'm humble brag. I'm pretty good at video games. Like I want to have fun with it too.
Yeah. So you want people with even a low skill ceiling to be able to get through the game normally without any customizations or.
Yeah. Then, like you mentioned customization. That is something I think there are some players who just even then are gonna have trouble. So there are some things like you can slow down time, and I also plan to have it in vulnerability mode, so you can just make it so you can take as much damage as you want. And then the trick will be what I'm not entirely sure is like I find those things are tough to balance because like as a player who wants to like do really well, it's like, oh well, you have to incentivize me not to use those, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to like make people who want to use those feel bad for using them too. So it's about finding that right balance. But I do want to have some customization options. But I think most people shouldn't need to dig into that, right? Like, I think things like slowing down time are for kind of people who, like maybe if you're trying to play the game with one hand or something, for instance, right? You have some need to like, this is really just too difficult to do. But yeah, for most of the time, it's like I want the game to be like a fun exploration. Like, yeah, there's tough bosses, and you'll get to these challenge gates, and you'll want to get better at the game there. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about all of this.
And then on the same vein, Zero's asking, what is a target demographic?
Honestly, like, I think the target demo is probably like people who played NES and Super NES games when they were kids and have like a kind of see that fondness for retro games in this game, and they maybe have kids and want a fun, cute, but like challenging for them, but a fun game they can play with their kids or like watch their kids play. That's, I think, honestly like a big demo. But mostly I think it's like, yeah, people like me that just like platformers, want like a little challenge, kind of explore, have some fun. It's like hand-drawn animation, like if you appreciate kind of like the craft of indie games and that sort of thing.
Raj, let's see. VCT Webster, another question. Without giving too much away, how is the game in terms of completing it? Will it encourage and re-completing the game and collecting every little thing and exploring everything?
Yes. Yeah. I think, again, like that's like the map wasn't functioning in this correctly, but you see there's like a map and I plan to have kind of a completion percent because I think, yeah, like secrets, I love, finding cool, like hiding secrets and finding them. That's always such a fun part of Metroidvanias in general. So that's going to be a big part of it. And I think there will be, I would like to also have some stuff beyond. I like when there's like beyond 100%, like a hell run or something.
Yeah, right.
I love that sort of stuff. So that might be like a stretch goal or something.
No. Let's see. What do we have next on here? And then can you tell us a little bit about Nemo himself, like the character? Like what's the story behind Nemo?
So Nemo is, based, kind of, took Winsor McCay's old Little Nemo comic strip, and I've run with that. So it's really just like a stand-in for the player. It's just like, a little kid enjoying like the wonder of exploring this dream world. I think if you're hoping to find character in the game, you're gonna find that in the NPCs in the world that you'll like talk to and engage with and give candy to purchase items and stuff. But Nemo will tend to be light on the personality to be a stand-in for the player.
Makes sense, yeah.
I'm always not necessarily completely silent protagonist, but along the vein.
And then I know, We Will was asking a question about things that act like charms, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I do want to ask, so death in this game means that you just kind of wake up, right? So you wake up in your own home, your own bed and everything, and it gives you access to your dresser and your toy chest. Will you be able to carry? So if you guys don't know, in this game, your toys are essentially your extra abilities. When you use your yo-yo, that's a toy. When you use your pogo stick, that's a toy. Stuff like that. So will you be able to take all of your toys with you, or what's going to be the point of the toy chest?
Yeah. So your toys are like permanent upgrades, and then there are two things that form like your kit, which are your PJs and your little buddy. Which right now you just have the default PJs, or your starter PJs, and you don't start with a little buddy. And a little buddy is like, think of like Symphony of the Night familiars, but maybe a little more interesting, like not just combat centric, but like there's a glow snail that can light up dark areas. And those are things that you can only swap out in the bedroom. And then when you come into the dream world, you've kind of like selected your kit. And to go back to the dream world, there's sort of a cost associated with going back to your bedroom, because if you wake up, you'll lose any candy and moons you've collected and reset your moon meter.
100%. Use all candy, all moons, and it's not like Hollow Knight where you can go pick it back up.
Right, and that's something I think I plan to kind of like potentially balance. Like that's what I would like it to be like, but I'm going to kind of feel it out and see if that's fair. Because obviously that feels really mean, right? You're like, you're going to take away all my candy every time I die. But it's one of those things that you only be able to like kind of understand the feel of it in like a full game. So that'll be something that'll get kind of ironed out more.
Fair enough.
Like an alpha beta stage. But yeah, that's the design intent, is that you can change out your kit, but there's a cost associated with either dying or willfully like going to a bed and forcing yourself to wake up. Okay.
Let's see. So we can go to the toy chest. So inside the toy chest, is that where our little buddy would be then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Little buddies are in the toy chest, and the PJs are in the dresser.
Makes sense. Okay. And then when you die, do you remember that you had died in the dream world when you wake up, or how does
so the world resets except for things that don't. So the like bosses will stay defeated. In this, so some things don't work the way they should yet. So for instance, like in this build that you're playing, the keys respawn and the doors go back to being locked. That's the sort of thing that would stay completed, like unlocking a door, getting a shortcut. The things that will respawn would be like
enemies and stuff.
Enemies, and that's part of that kind of gets into like part of the reason why I want to drop all your candy when you die, is because I know some people like farming in games, but I find I don't love farming in games. I feel like it like incentivizes kind of like rote tasks, which I don't love, but I know some people do, so I could be persuaded. But that's part of the reason. It's because like that way, if you wake up to respawn the enemies, you'll lose your candy, so you can't farm.
Okay, that makes sense. It disincentivizes farming, because normally farming is incentivized, where it's just like, well, this is this makes the most sense. It's the shortest distance between A and B. I'm gonna do whatever's gonna save me the most time in the long run.
Yeah, I'll just keep waking up and killing this one rock lobster right here over and over until I have the candy I need, right?
Exactly,
Like that's not fun, and I it's like I find, I'm of the mindset, like if you give a player an unfun but that's the option, they'll do the unfun thing, and I want people to have fun.
100%. Okay. Let's see, Micah is asking what is a game concept, and in short, it's a Metroidvania.
And I see Dan's asking about a movement speed faster. There's a PJ. There's pajamas that will make you move faster.
Let's see, farming is good for fashion pieces, I think. No stars, but if it's for usable gear, minimize the grind. Okay. Let's see. Do you remember where you died? It's on the kick part. Why can't I? There we go. On the Kickstarter page, let's see, I think he said something about the way that you design the pajamas were like, it was a way, so in that way, how do I say this? The whole game's hand drawn. It's all hand art, but you made it so in that way the pajamas can be like changed out. How how'd you do that? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So the way Nemo gets drawn right now is there's every sprite that can change color is 2 images. There's the layer that is like kind of what you see, like the cross hatching and the shading and such, and there's another layer that says like this area should be this color and this area should be this color. And so then I have like gradients. So each color, so like Nemo's hair is one color, Nemo's PJs are another color, skin tone another color, and then those all are associated with a gradient, which I can then swap out on the fly like during the game. So like it's not available in this alpha, but it's like it's actually, it works in there. It's like you could go in and change Nemo's color right now, but yeah, it's a lot like what you see in NES games, where you kind of like change the color palette of stuff by just like the colors of the pixels actually change. It's similar to that, but because it's hand drawn, I use a gradient associated with blocks, like areas of color.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah, it's a little weird. Somebody's probably solved this in a better way before, but it's kind of a weird, unique thing where I wanted to do, because there's not a ton of like hand-drawn retro style games out there.
For sure. Okay, real quick, I need to shout out to Taco TV, who's raiding with the party of 5. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming by and hanging out during the stream earlier today as well. Highly appreciated. So welcome. If you guys are just joining in right now, we are interviewing I keep Dave, right?
Yeah, Dave.
I almost said Dan. I'm like, oh man, that would have been another. We're interviewing Dave. He is the solo dev of Little Nemo, the Guardians of Slumberland. Right now in the background, we've got the demo that I was playing earlier, and just have it pre-recorded. But it was a super early version of a playable demo. It's super fun, and so now we're just kind of talking about the game. The Kickstarter just launched today, so I will leave a link right there if you want to go check it out. And yeah, we're jumping in, so welcome. Rapunzel was asking about the in the Kickstarter. It says there's pet as a perk, and does it differ from the other little buddies? So my understanding is that the little buddies are each different. As you said, they're part of your kit that allow you to get from point A to point B. So I think the star, that was like something that provides light or something like that.
Yeah, those are different things. So like the little buddies are not something that are available as like a tier that you can add one. The pet constellation is there's an area of the game, the observatory.
Okay.
And you'll see in the sky all of the pet constellations.
Raj. So Rapunzel is talking about actually backing at a certain tier. When you're on the Kickstarter page, depending on what tier you back, you'll get different rewards, and that's what they're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. I saw Bluncy is asking about voice acting. I'm not a huge fan of voice acting in games, because I find what I do is I read quickly, and then I end up skipping the voice acting, and I feel bad about it, but I still do it. I really like Animal Crossing style voices, so that's the plan for the game.
Oh man, in this game it totally sounds like Banjo-Kazooie.
yeah, it's what I want to do is have like it. Ideally a different voice for every character, but at least like several different voices they can choose from. But I'm essentially doing what Animal Crossing does, or at least the earlier ones, where it's like each letter has like a sound, and so it's actually like reading the text.
Oh no way! Okay.
It's just doing it very quickly, so it doesn't come through. It's like this was John Bacon who's doing the sound effects. The Flip voice, that was like his very first pass. So like. I imagine we'll kind of dial that Flip's voice in a bit, and other characters will have like other cool voices and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, it didn't sound bad at all. I was just saying, like, that was the first thing I thought about instantly. I'm like, Banjo-Kazooie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Character design. Let's see. So I wanted to know, because it showed like us going from one area of the map to another area of the map. When I say it, like one area of this world to like another world, like at the very end of this like playthrough, are all the worlds going to be connected, or is there going to be like, is the bedroom going to be a central hub and you're going to select where you go, or like how do you get from one world or one area to the next?
So my goal is to, this is like, obviously it would make, it would be totally feasible to have fast travel from your bedroom to any bed in the world. I don't love fast travel.
Really?
And so I have ideas. Yeah, I like, you know, for instance, like stuff more like the stag beetle in Hollow Knight, where it's like, oh, here's like a quick path from here to here, stuff like that. So my goal is to avoid fast travel, but it's one of those things where it's all going to depend ultimately on like how the physical, like geographical scale of the game when it's done and how it feels. And so that's something I'll kind of iron out, but my goal is to avoid fast travel, and instead, like, I have some ideas for how to mitigate that. But the idea is Nemo just traverses through the world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, if it's not fun to go from point A to point B, then that's the problem I want to solve, not how do I get them there quicker.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make it fun. I want you to be like, oh, I'm going back over here. Cool. That'll be, I like that part. That's like a fun level there.
Yeah, because I know, like, the way that Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, they took care of that by just adding crazy movement abilities. So you could travel faster, and traveling became part of the fun, right? Being able to blink and teleport and add your bash ability and this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah, I really like advanced movement tech in games.
Yeah.
So, like, one of the things I want to add, like, something you can do if you get wall jump right now, for instance, it's like you can wall jump, and wall jump actually produces momentum, which is different from, like, your normal running speed. And as long as you, like, touch the ground as little as possible, you can, like, keep that momentum a little bit. And similarly, I want to, there's, like, a cape, which will give you an air dodge ability later on. And so I want to add, like, a wave dashing movement tech. So, like, little things like that like, allow you to move quickly.
Yeah.
Without, it's like stuff you don't have to use, but it's like, if that's what's fun for you, like, I want to give you that option.
Definitely. And then speaking of different areas and stuff like that, this is more of a side note because I didn't get to see more than the one area, is I hope, my wish is that you make sure to add in enough diverse enemies in the game, so in that way every area has new, fresh, different enemies, right? Chat? Let me know if this is how you feel. But man, the old NES games, they would be like, okay, here's a reskin of enemy number 5, or like, oh man, what was it? Donkey Kong Country is pretty notorious for that. You'd fight the same, like, crocodile, but now instead of blue, he's red, and he takes 2 hits instead of 1, or whatever, right?
That is the plan, is to have like basically each zone has its like cast of enemies. But I think that I don't have like an aversion to reusing enemies. I just think thematically it works better if you have like enemies that fit your zone is really nice. But I actually really like that when it's done really well, when it's like, oh, here's this enemy and it's like a little harder, and so it takes what you've learned from fighting that enemy and then like builds upon it. I think that's really nice.
Yeah.
But the way enemies get tiered in this ties into that kind of leveling up system I talked about. So it's something that I think a lot of players won't engage with necessarily. But hopefully for those players that like the extra challenge, that'll be like an interesting addition.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how that works with the extra challenge. Let's see. Diligence, man. I think my biggest problem for the game at first glance is it looks simple, like a child's game, but it's deep and advanced Metroidvania. Yeah, I mean, so far, even just from what I played of it, it's not the easiest game. Like, there's definitely like, it was definitely easy to die. Or make little mistakes here or there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is on me, on like the design, because this is like a lot of these areas were kind of like are a little rushed at the moment to kind of get something together, and it's not all of them are like completely perfectly honed. It's like you'll jump and hit your head and then fall on some spikes, little things that like that's not your fault, that's my fault. But the boss here is. the boss here is definitely like a little harder than I think it should be for a first boss, at least. But yeah, I think that's gonna be a challenge for any game that like is going for this vibe. Is like, oh, is this like a kids game? Is this for me if I like challenging games? That's gonna be something that I just have to overcome. But like for me personally, when I see a game like this, my first reaction is like, I want to play that game. It looks really cute and colorful.
Hollow Ori was just asking, I looked at the Kickstarter page, are there any stretch goals? I told you. That's one of the first things I do. That's one of the first things I do. Go ahead.
It's something I want to wait to, make sure that we can hit the goal. Because obviously, like, if we don't hit the goal, then we'll go to the stretch goals. But yeah, I definitely have some stuff in mind, but I'm curious to hear, are there stretch goals you're looking for? Is that why you ask?
Ooh, good question. For me personally, I'm not necessarily usually looking for anything in particular. I'm usually just excited to see what it is that the developer wants to do next, because that's usually what it is. I mean, the stretch goal is so that way you can make the game what you want it to be, because they're just like the base game, like, hey, this is a bare minimum what we need to make the game, but to do what you want to do, it's going to take X amount more money or whatever else. So whether that is porting to other consoles or whatever else, like, that's usually one that's like, okay, well, porting to more consoles, like, that's gonna make you more money, so like, is that really a stretch goal for us to share, or is that really just so you can make more money? I get really excited when it's like the end game content, double endings, extra content, usually content. That's what I get excited about. I understand what you mean. I think if you look at like the funding goal for this, it's a 65K. It's like a bit higher than a lot of other indie game Kickstarters, and I think part of that is like I'm the kind of vision I put forward, I think, is what I think is like the complete game I want to make, and I wouldn't want to like water that down and be like, here, I'll give you this, and then if you give me this much money, then you also get the pajamas, and if you give me this much money, you also get the little buddies. There is one aspect of content though that I don't think is like required to make this like a complete vision of a game that I'd be happy to ship, which is like a hell run. But I think hell runs are like the coolest thing in games, so I would love to do that for this, and definitely we have ideas for like lore wise how a hell run would work, so I would love to introduce that as like a stretch goal. But it's one of those things, it would be tough to justify without like more support. So for sure. And then where to go? Jasmine the Noon says, Little Nemo God Home Pantheons. Which is like the super endgame Hollow Knight. It was the boss.
Yeah, the one that I guess we didn't mention Cave Story being a big influence, but that was a big influence on me, just being like, the first big indie game I played. That hell run was like one that I got really into. I never beat it, not quite that good, but like it was really cool to like get there and like be like, oh wow, there's this whole other like different ending that's like not just like I didn't like just make a different choice and I got a different ending. It's like I like played the game in like a more difficult way, and now I'm getting this new, more difficult content. Like I really appreciate that.
And then Rapunzel's asking, what exactly would you consider a hell run?
Yeah, yes. Oh, great question. Yeah, for me, it's like this thing that you don't know is there, and if you beat the game without it, you feel like you had a complete experience. Like, okay, I got a satisfying ending to the game. Maybe not like completely. Like maybe there were some things about like, oh, it's too bad like this thing happened though. But you may, and if you, maybe a keen player saw like hints of something more, and then you then kind of maybe dug into those threads and found these tasks you could complete that are like fairly difficult, and by doing them you opened up the option to like beat the game, and then when you beat the game it does not stop, there's more. That to me is that's like what I think of as a hell run.
Got it. That makes sense. Let's see. So I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of the most recent example of it that I can think of was like Haiku the Robot. Well, they specifically said, hey, there's an achievement if you don't ever pick up or use the healing ability. But I think yours sounds like more of it'll be you got to kind of stumble upon it a little bit more.
Yeah, I like when they tie into the lore, right? Like you have to do something with like you have to interact with some character in a certain way. Maybe there's an NPC who has a quest, but you don't even realize they have a quest for you, right? Like, what if you bring them a certain thing? They'll react to it. That sort of the sort of stuff I like.
For sure. Let's see, chat. Is there anything? I know you guys we've been kind of going back and forth and asking questions as we go, but let me know if you guys in chat specifically have any questions, and I'll make sure to get those asked. Let's see. Are the main and side quests, or how do you progress? Are there main and side quests, or how do you progress?
Yeah, so the progression is through your quests. Are essentially like each zone has like a main quest, which is to save the guardian of that zone, which will typically but not always involve like defeating a big bad boss, right? So like in here you have the rock, and it not in this demo would be, but like what would normally happen is like say you get that guardian scepter and you can return them to their human form, and that's like the main quest for each section. And there will be side quests and stuff. What exactly those I haven't really, that's the sort of stuff that like I haven't really dug into yet, but I do want to have like little fun side quests, like little just NPCs you run into, and they're sort of like there are a few that I have planned out that I don't want to spoil, but it's sort of kind of like I was saying with the Hell Run, where it's like some NPC and maybe they just not an explicit quest, but maybe they tell you about a thing they like, and then later you see a thing that they mention, and hey, what if I brought this to them? What would happen? That's sort of a side quest.
Makes sense. I like it. Let's see. And is a game available to play yet?
No. There's so this build is very rough around the edges. It's it's like the map's not functioning, the status screen doesn't work. There's a lot I want to get in before I get a demo, but the plan right now is to just have any like playable builds that I make that are like publicly available would not be like publicly available to everyone, but to the alpha access tier. So there's a tier in the Kickstarter at I think $60 and up where you can get access to any early builds of the game.
Ooh,
and that'll be so for people who like doing that, like being involved, giving feedback and stuff, that would be the tier to back at. But there isn't a sort of demo to try the game to see if this Kickstarter is for you. The goal here was to sort of have this build available so so people could play it and show it off. But I think it's I think if you played this right now, it might give you the wrong idea. I'm like, oh, it feels a little cramped here, that feels a little wrong, because this is a very early build right now.
I thought it felt awesome. Like not to toot your horn, I'm not being paid. It's not sponsored or anything like that. It's honestly, the art drew me in, and then actually playing the game, I was just like, the controls feel great and everything. Like there's been some games where people are like, hey, can we pay you to do the thing? And I check out their game and I'm like, yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. But yeah,
Oh,
that's
I'm glad. I'm glad you felt like the feel was good, because that's something that I can't convey without putting the game in front of everyone, right? It's like
yeah,
that's something I care about, and um, I want to make feel good. So I'm glad at least you're able to sort of communicate that the game feel is sort of um, where one would hope it would be.
definitely. And let's see. And then, so yeah, so their Twitter is Diesoft Games. I put that in the chat. So definitely check them out on Twitter. And then also make sure you're checking out their Kickstarter campaign. There's a link for that. Yeah, slowly but surely it's still going up. So thank you to everyone who's backing the game.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Very important question. Will you be able to pet the cat in your bedroom? That is
Yeah,
an important question.
that's another reason I don't want people in pre-alpha. I don't want people to think you can't pet the cat, because that will absolutely be the game. Because there are some plans, like that might be a stretch goal too, like for content, is like there's something, I would love to bring, the cat's name is Leo. I would love to bring Leo into Dream World, but that's something that like might be a better fit for like a stretch goal too in terms of content. But I at least want Leo to be like a fun reason to come back to your bedroom.
Tears
Kind of come back and give a pet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you can't pet the pets, what's the point of the pet?
Yeah.
Let's see. Does this game have anything to do with the Little Nemo Dream Master, one of my favorite Nintendo games?
No, this is not directly related in the sense of like I'm not affiliated with Capcom, and the Dream Master, that's like their take on Little Nemo, Winsor McCay's Little Nemo comics, which are in the public domain. So they're, that it gets into like legal stuff where, things that they introduced, like I couldn't use their art from the game, right? But like Little Nemo is in public domain, so I can make a game about Little Nemo going into the Dream World, and that's not Capcom's IP, that's Winsor McCay's IP, which is now in the public domain.
Interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, I didn't know that's where that was coming from.
Go check it out. Early 20th century comic strip. Winsor McCay, he was pivotal for like very important in early animation. So, if anyone here studied animation, they're probably aware of Winsor McCay and like Gertie the dinosaur and stuff. But his Little Nemo comics were like his biggest thing.
Let's see. Luke was asking, do you have a price in mind, like $20 or whatever? And sorry if it's already been asked, it is not.
Oh yeah, unless like things could be subject to change by the time the target release date is end of next year. By the time that rolls around, I don't know, inflation might be such that it's higher. But like $20 is what I would like the MSRP to be.
Yeah, makes sense. I feel like it's like right in line these days. Yeah. Bruce was asking, is there an Easter egg with somebody called Dory? Uh-oh.
Dory. There's no, that Nemo is copyrighted, so
got it.
That's a Nemo that can't be in here.
Let's see, all the PJs are going to be recolor skin of the main pajamas, or will we be able to have different physical pajamas, a la the OG pajama from the old anime game and all that?
So I do have like if you look at the Kickstarter exclusive items, there is a PJ which it doesn't, typically PJs also have abilities associated with them. This one just duplicates the default PJs, but visually it's called the Master of Dreams pajamas, and it is a little reminiscent of Capcom's take on Little Nemo and their sprite. But it's not like a complete overhaul. It's like it is just like a color palette swap. It is limited to color palette swaps because like each of these frames, like Nemo here has over 200 right now, and there'll be surely more to come by the end of the game. Just like 200 hand-drawn frames just for the stuff that Nemo can do on screen right now. So adding stuff to that, like adding different elements, would mean like drawing 200 versions of whatever tweak it is. So yeah, the palette swap is like, obviously, like, it feels a little cheap, but it's just the level of work that goes into changing these animations would just be cost prohibitive.
Fair enough. I meant to ask, I don't know, are you watching the stream right now too, or no?
Yeah.
So over to the left of here, where you got the spikes and stuff like that, could you go off that and go to the left?
Yes.
What was over the left?
There's a chest up there. And it's kind of like the dresser you see down lower below to the left, where it just kind of tells you like, hey, normally this dresser would have PJs. So like when you find a dresser in the world, it gives you PJs, and when you in the dream world, and when you find a toy chest in the world, it'll give you a new little buddy.
Got it.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's like a secret chest over there.
Every time it rolls by in here, I'm like, you know what? Because I think I saw it in the Kickstarter or demo. I saw that you could pogo on the spikes. I'm like, I never did that. I didn't know that was a thing. And then I see the spikes. I'm like, I didn't go that way. Okay.
Yeah, lots of stuff that, because obviously things are kind of like packed in densely here. Like you get the pogo stick way earlier than you would in the game. Typically, this stuff will be the toys will kind of come at you at a rate of more like maybe one toy per zone, whereas here you just there's 3 you can get in here.
Yeah.
So I would take more time to acclimate you with each toy, so you could kind of like learn like, oh, maybe I wouldn't show you that secret necessarily, but at least like like, yeah, you can jump off of hazards.
Like you have to get through hazards to get to somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. Insane Jack, why am I getting Sonic vibes from this? It's the checkered ground.
Checkpoint. Yeah, it just straight up was like, I loved. So it's very Sonic inspired, but honestly, that comes more from Mario. Because for me, like, yeah, like, because the checker itself, like explicitly the checker, is a very Sonic thing. But I was always a Nintendo kid, and in Mario games, there's a lot of just geometry on things, like the hills have stripes, stuff like that, and you can see that in the background. The mountains have like stripes on them as well, and so I was like, I want to put some geometry on the ground here, and then I was like, you know what, Sonic really nailed this though, so I looked specifically to Sonic for that inspiration.
Interesting. And then let's see, Diligence was asking, are there going to be any platform-only challenges like Path of Pain for Hollow Knights? Is there going to be anything that's just extremely difficult?
That would be a hell run. If there. Oh,
okay, got it.
Yeah,
like you trigger something, then it becomes extra difficult.
It could be. It's one of those things. Like if it were an optional thing, I'm happy to add like extreme difficulties, but anything for like the main quest, again, it kind of ties back that conversation about difficulty. I want to be careful about the level of challenge, and most of that stuff will be those kind of challenges will be sort of like you opt into it being harder and you get rewarded in some way for doing so.
For sure. Like, yeah, you wouldn't even want to tie it to like percentage completion if it's extremely difficult, because then not everyone can 100%.
Yeah, right? and you don't want to make people feel bad, like, oh, I only got like 80% after beating the game, like, and I'm just not good enough to get there, I guess. But yeah, maybe you get to 100%, but then maybe there's like a secret 200% or something that you'll only find if you were like going to taking the moon meter to level 3 and like playing on the hardest, making the game as hard as you could.
Let's see. So speaking of difficulty, what are some of the accessibility features that you're planning on adding in?
Yeah, like we mentioned with difficulty options, I think that's good for accessibility. It's just like for anyone who has like a physical disability that like makes it difficult to play, I think being able to slow down the game as needed, and being able to make yourself invulnerable as needed, because you might just run into things you just are maybe physically impossible for you to defeat without what somebody might call like a cheat. And so those are like, I see those as accessibility features. But then there's other stuff like font sizes. So I don't know if you fiddled with it, but like all of the text in the UI and everything goes through. I have like a font render, like fontanizing system. So you can just change the size of all the font. You can set it to a dyslexic friendly font called Dyslexia.
Oh, you have that? Oh my gosh, super helpful. I didn't like. I think I'm partially dyslexic. Every time I use that font, I'm like, oh, this is great.
Oh yeah, I mean, visually I can't stand it. I'm not dyslexic, so I never turn it on. It looks,
it looks goofy.
Really,
I get it, but man, just something just makes it more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, and so for something like that, where it's like, sure, like if that's better for you, I want to give you that option. So yeah, dyslexia is a font option in there. Font scaling, because like I hate it when games have font that's like way too small.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to make it like, these are things that like I think I run into. So it's like, I play games where the font's too small. And I play, like when I played Sekiro, I played on the PC. I had to activate, like, I had to download a trainer to beat the last boss. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
I was just getting bodied, and I was like, you know what? This was a great game. I loved it, but I'm done. But also, I want to see the end of the story, so I'm just gonna cheat to beat the boss. Like, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And so it's like I want to give those options to people. If you're like, you know what, I hit my ceiling, but I want to see a little more, and I'm okay with like kind of like quote unquote cheating. I want to give you those options. I want to give you the options to make it more comfortable for you visually to play. And so other options, I just want to see what people ask for. Like, I don't have any colorblind options yet, just because that's something I don't know a lot about, but that's something I'm sure people would appreciate. So wait and see what do people want, basically.
Let's see. And then this kind of goes in line with how long before you think the game will be ready or released, which you said the end of next year. But if you hit your backing, like just a minimal goal, how long do you think the funds would last for that?
Yeah, so that funding goal is basically to let me like scrape by to so I can afford to live to make the game over the next like year and a half. So yeah, if you look at the, like, I have a budget breakdown towards the bottom, and you can see, if we hit 65,000, that's like roughly 30,000 of income minus taxes. So it's like one can kind of scrape by on something like that, but it's like not ideal. This is a labor of love, so it's like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you're not getting rich off of Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the goal is like to make a game ultimately that I can sell later on. So it's like if I can scrape by, that's maybe I can do okay with sales when the game comes out. And so that those will help. I imagine probably why you're asking is like a lot of Kickstarters, they set the goals low, and you're like, will this actually make the game? And it's like I wanted to make a Kickstarter that I could actually fund a game with, and I think I can only do that because I've already put a lot of my own time and money into this over the last few years. At this point, it's like, I think it's like close enough that it just needs that extra push. And if we get to some, touching back on stretch goals, other stretch goals I'd be interested in would be in like getting other people to help. So like, things like help with art on the character portraits and dialogue screen, stuff like that. It'd be great to have another artist helping the thing. So, so that that base funding goal will last to get the game out. But I would love to keep on going and get further along.
Got it. And then also along the same lines is so like, what is your approximate size of the game right now, like in mind, as far as either number of areas, or do you have roughly like how many hours you think the game experience might be?
The zones I have planned, there are 9 zones. I won't like spoil what they are, but I do have hints at some of that in the profile. You can see a few of them, and then see hints of what some of the others are. And then others I definitely wouldn't want to spoil. Like there's like especially the last zone. And the like hour-wise, like probably in the like 5 to 10 hour range. Like I'm not trying to compete with Hollow Knight. I wouldn't want to. I think we all know how long it takes Team Cherry to make those amazing games, right? Like, and I want to make something that's amazing but shorter. I also just I tend to prefer shorter games, even though like Hollow Knight I think was like the one of those exceptions where it kept me enraptured the entire time I was playing it. Like
Yeah.
most of the time I want a game to last like 10 hours is like kind of my sweet spot personally. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for here.
Yep. Nope. That totally makes sense. Let's see. That's kind of looking at the some of the backers and where some of the people were at. Yeah, it's getting up there. Getting up there.
Somebody just noticed you missed that. Rapunzel noticed you missed a secret.
Yeah. Let's see. It's Kickstarter over or just starting? It just started today. So here is the link right here. And that'll pop up in chat. And so yeah, definitely check it out and take a look at everything they want to add in. We've been doing the live stream for an hour now, so we have gotten through quite a few of the questions, but if you do have a question, please feel free to ask. Yo, what's up, Sammy boy? Good to see you. Welcome, my friend. In fact, I'm actually right at the point where we will open it back up to questions, and while we're doing that, let's see, can we leave this music going? And put Little Nemo behind display capture. So there we go. So we're gonna look at the Kickstarter, and yeah, make sure to take it. You can come through here. You can kind of see a little bit more about the story of Little Nemo, some of the games that were inspired. It was a very, very well put together Kickstarter. These
I had
are
a
some
lot
of
of
the
people
items.
helping with like giving feedback on this stuff, which it's like,
Oh, it helps for sure.
yeah.
Let's see. Can we pin the link for newcomers to the stream? Yes, I can. I can do that. That and then pin message. There you go. That's a smart way to handle things. Let's see. And then oh yeah, here's the world. So Mushroom Marsh is one of the new ones. Nightlight City, Crystal Caverns, Haunted Hollow. Very cool. The art on these are just so good. You did really good with these. Okay, and then here's an example of the map, kind of how things would connect. But yeah, go through this. Go check out their Kickstarter page. We're not going to go through every last thing on here. But yeah, there's some really cool high tier ones. What was the highest tier one? It was to allow for one person can become a Guardian of Slumberland, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's one Guardian in particular that likes video games, and the idea is to have like, rather than there being a boss there's this quest to collect video game cartridges for this Guardian. And so that seemed like a really fun one to make, because obviously anyone backing this is going to be a fan of video games. And so it's an opportunity to sort of like model this Guardian after whoever backs at this tier, and let them kind of like, okay, what games are they collecting? For, like what games are they asking the play? And maybe we probably can't put the actual games in, but we can sort of like make little parodies of the games or something.
Awesome. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see the development on all this. If I didn't already add your Twitter into the description, I will make sure to add it. But Diesoft Games is the name on Twitter if you want to go ahead and follow there. There's all kinds of different little I don't know, but behind the scenes and little bits and pieces to check out if you haven't already checked out their Twitter. Definitely worth checking out. Is there anything else you can think of off the top of your head to share or talk about?
No, just want to say thanks, everyone. I mean, I'm seeing some like Salmon Boy saying this art style is so cute. I really appreciate the love, because obviously I've spent a lot of time on the art. It's honestly like much more difficult for me than the coding aspect is. Like, I come from a coding background more so than an artistic background.
Looking at the art, I would not have guessed that. I would have guessed the opposite just from looking at
it. Well, it's just like I just really struggle over it. I think is it makes me happy to hear people are enjoying that. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I really appreciate all the love and comments that y'all are appreciating how it's looking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream here. Thank you everyone for hanging out and coming back for another live stream because it wasn't our first one today. I will also post the video of my initial gameplay of this here in just a little bit. So again, thank you everybody. Always good to see you. I'll leave a link to Discord as well. You guys are awesome. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye everybody.